welcome to Hollywood Already Did It. It's your boy Terrence here, and we're in it now. We're in the end game. We got 7 days left before this bad boy comes out. Everybody's excited. Excuse me, everybody's right in the middle of their rewatch. You're about halfway through, hopefully. More. If you're just starting, it's gonna be kind of rough for you. But what I thought would be cool is to do this new thing on the channel called a trailer rewind, where we go back and look at all the trailers that happened in phase 1, phase 2, and subsequently phase 3, and sort of look about where you were when that movie came out, what you were doing in your life, and more importantly, when did you fall in love with the MCU? Like, that's the question that I have. Like, when did you fall in love with the MCU? Now, normally, I would have the comments left open below, but because some asshat thought it would be a cool idea to leak Avengers Endgame footage, and it's now been it's been spreading like wildfire. I don't want anyone in this channel or anyone who links this to get bamboozled by that leak. So comments are going to be locked until right about a week after Endgame has come out. I know that's kind of not sort of fitting what this whole trailer rewind section is going to be about, but you'll see what I'm doing, and then you'll kind of know what the future of the trailer rewinds will be. It's just for this one, it's very sticky, and I don't want anybody to get ruined what they've been trying to do for an entire decade of film, all right? So that said, what we're going to do is kind of go back and watch a trailer, and I'll kind of give you where I was in my life, and I'd like to know sort of where you were. What have you been up to? What did this trailer mean for you? Where were you at in your life? You'll kind of get the flow of it as I go along, all right? So we're going to start off with Iron Man 1. Now, Iron Man 1 is interesting because it came out in 2008. Now, it's funny because everybody's doing this whole, oh, there's too many superhero films, blah, 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 whatever. Superheroes are now a genre. But it's funny because in 2008, there were about 5, maybe 6 superhero movies. We had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Hellboy 2, The Dark Knight, Hancock, and I believe Punisher Warzone came out in December. So that's like 5 films right there. And 2 of them, I would say The Dark Knight and Iron Man, basically shaped how the comic films went from that point on. Iron Man 1 is basically responsible for all of the MCU. And The Dark Knight, while it's not a part of the DCEU, it did sort of set the tone for what Zack Snyder did with the Zack Snyder universe for Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and the Justice League. Whether that's good or bad, that's for another entire conversation. But Iron Man is the one that started it all. And it's interesting because in 2008, at that point, Robert Downey Jr. was coming off some troubles. Jon Favreau wasn't really known to be that big of a director. He did Swingers and he did Zathura. Like, you're like, this is the guy you're giving Iron Man to? But it just became this sort of perfect storm that worked. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the trailer, kind of go over some things. It's funny because this was outsourced to Paramount, so I'm interested to see how this movie feels looking at this trailer versus what we get now with the MCU. They're very branded. This is the first movie out the gate. I don't think they knew that they were what they quite had at this moment. So we're going to start now.
Mr. Stark, you've been called the Da Vinci of our time.
Da Vinci of our time.
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
There's the Paramount logo, so like no Marvel Comics listed yet. There it is.
They say the best weapon is one you never have to
Oh,
fire.
Tony looks so young.
You only need to fire.
That's a very different roadie we have there.
That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. To peace.
To peace.
Take a picture with you?
Yes, it's very cool. I don't want to see this on your MySpace page.
Oh,
Please, no dancing.
the word of MySpace?
I'll throw it up.
Yeah, it's pretty dated. But it's funny because this trailer just immediately hits you with the explosion out the gate. You kind of get an idea of who Tony is, but then it goes right into like, this is what this is about, which is good because this character, at the time when Iron Man 1 came out, he's a C-list character. He's not that well known, so it sort of became a perfect storm that this movie did as well as it did, despite no one really knowing who this guy was. It just shows you how good Iron Man 1 was and how good Robert Downey Jr. was for all of this. I don't know if you put anyone else in this role, if this movie does what it has done, or if this universe gets as big as it has gotten. You hit him with that rock, those rock chords right there, you're gonna get butts in the seat. Him flying versus fighter jets. Such a generic looking logo now that what we get. It's interesting because I'm sorry. They didn't do the joke coders at this point too. That was interesting that it went to show you the date and then it came back just to show you that can fly. And they're kind of doing the thing that back in the day when Superman first came out with Christopher Reeve, they're saying, you'll believe a man can fly. It seemed like this is their big selling point to this character. Is like, we have a billionaire playboy, Robert Downey Jr., who kind of is art imitating life. And we have this character who builds and creates a way that he can fly. So, I mean, it was a good starting off point. You can tell that it's funny because you can tell at this point they did not have a direction. They were doing two films, one with Paramount and the other one, which we'll get to in just a second, with Universal, with Incredible Hulk. So at this point, I don't think the world building was beginning. But then when Iron Man came out the gate like just on fire, Incredible Hulk put the coda in at the end with Thunderbolt Ross and Tony Stark. That kind of was like, okay, maybe we need to start connecting this stuff and maybe we do have something bigger than what we thought. So next up was Edward Norton's The Incredible Hulk, which if anyone has watched this movie on their rewatch, it's the one film that just outright sticks out. Because we don't have Edward Norton anymore in character. We now have Bruce Banner, and I think the majority of people have become used to Bruce Banner being by Mark Ruffalo, that Edward Norton's version, while I think this movie's good, because I like it's basically an homage or a hearkening to the old television series, it does feel dated and completely out of place because most of the things outside of Ross, who's brought back in Civil War, is just kind of thrown away. You get a throwaway line of Ruffalo mentioning his damage to New York in Avengers, but that's sort of about it. It's interesting to me because at this time in my life, I was in LA for about 4 years, and who is now my wife, I just started hanging out with the young lady who is now my wife, and this was the first movie I think we saw as a friend. She had no idea, she wasn't into comics, and Incredible Hulk was the first movie that me, myself, and another friend of ours went to go see together, and she was like, oh, that was pretty good. Fast forward all the way to now, I think she is as excited for Endgame as I am, which says a lot for someone who had no clue at all about comics and says a testament to what these films have done overall, all right? So let's go ahead and get a look at this Incredible Hulk trailer and see what this looks like. Now, this one, I believe, was done by Universal, is what I said earlier. We're gonna start now. Yeah, there's a Universal logo.
I've got a
But Marvel comes right away.
There are aspects of my personality that I can't control.
You got the dumpy dad from
It's a little
Modern
more
Family.
complicated than that.
Bruce, trust me when I tell you, I've heard them all.
It's so weird, someone
Not this
calling
one.
him Bruce, and I'm like, that's not Bruce. But this trailer definitely gives the feel of the Incredible Hulk
We've
TV
never seen
series,
anything
which
even
is
close
very
to
different
your
than the
level of
Ang Lee one,
exposure.
which was
That you
a whole other.
survived an event
I don't think
like
awful,
that.
just not what
It's
was
beyond my
necessary for
comprehension.
Incredible Hulk.
I don't want to control it. I want to get rid of it.
Hell, we don't even bring up
As I'm
Betty
concerned,
again.
that man's whole body is
Betty's
property
never
of the
brought up, and
US
it'd be
Army.
cool if Liv. What if Liv Tyler shows up in Endgame?
They want it as a weapon. If we let it go, we will never get it back.
Lost is so over the top, but I kind of love it.
There's only one thing that can fight that. It's in me.
I really
Maybe
do
if I
have a
can
love-hate with
control
this
it.
movie, because I think the first part of it is
can
great. It's
use
just
it.
that last act is so nuts. But I mean, it's a comic book movie. Of course you're going to go crazy when you get that last 40 minutes of this battle. So it's about a good minute and a half before we get any shot of actual Incredible Hulk. It's all done in the background, which is a cool trick they use. The head to body ratio of this Hulk is a little weird, but I do think this is one of the better models they've had. I think all the ones now look like Ruffalo and are starting to become more and more humanized, which I think they're doing on purpose. But I think this one's just a straight up monster. This one does not have a button at the end, which I think Marvel has kind of become known for. It's also kind of cool that they ended their trailer with the classic monster versus monster jumping at each other, attacking each other shot. It's funny because I just watched Godzilla trailer and that's literally how that movie trailer ends, with the two monsters running towards each other. So I feel like that's kind of what they were trying to get to with this one. It's fun. At this point in time, I don't think I really enjoyed Iron Man. Incredible Hulk did okay, but with the way that Iron Man did and then the way that Dark Knight did, both Hellboy 2 and Incredible Hulk kind of just like forgotten things of 2008. And so I don't think the MCU had a great momentum. Iron Man was a great way to jump off, but I think people kind of give them a pass for Incredible Hulk because Iron Man 1 did so well. But then we eventually skip ahead a couple years, because obviously they didn't know they were going to be doing this. So how we now get a Marvel film every year, this was the first time where we got 2 in a year, and then there was a gap because they didn't have any in the can. They weren't ready to keep going yet. So then once they realized that they had a momentum and an actual franchise going, we get 2 years and then they get Iron Man 2, which I know a lot of people have a problem with. I am one of them. It's towards the bottom of my ranking list, which I may or may not do for this channel. But I think it's still good. It kind of reminds me of how I feel with Ghostbusters 2 and Ghostbusters 1. Yes, Ghostbusters 2 is vastly inferior to Ghostbusters 1, as is Iron Man 2 to Iron Man 1. But I think just spending time with those characters again, that there is something about that. But yeah, we can all acknowledge that the film quality is not as good. Most of it is because they're trying to do so much world building in Iron Man 2 that you're kind of just like, okay, tell the story that you have here. Stop trying to branch out so much. And it's clear that, I mean, it's been said too by actors on set that there wasn't really a script. So they were kind of just winging it a lot of the times. And some people are good at that, with Robert Downey Jr., and then some have an issue with that. But I do really like Sam Rockwell in this movie. So let's go ahead and look at this trailer and see what they have. We're going to start this bad boy up in 1, 2, go. So it's not like a full rock concert. This trailer opens almost as like Marvel saying, we celebrated that we just whipped your ass. We're now in this.
Front and center.
And then we get Scarlett Johansson looking amazing.
I want one.
No.
It's so funny though, because now there's things, we're still doing Paramount here. There's now things that happen in this movie that if this was released today, some of the things that Tony says to Scarlett and about Scarlett and just about women probably would not get the pass that it got then. So it's interesting to just kind of see that now versus today. I do really like the car sequence in this movie. And I love the suit. Like, we're not watching the film, but I do love the suit that's getting put on at the race car track. That's a badass scene.
Our priority is to get the Iron Man weapon turned over to the United States of America.
I am Iron Man.
Barry Shanley.
The suit and I
Peace.
are one.
Contrary to popular belief, I know exactly what I'm doing.
What I saw you do to Tony Stark.
It's a very
on that
anticipated
track,
movie,
wow.
so everyone was kind of seeing what was happening next.
I want to make Iron Man.
It's weird though, they haven't shown that they had changed. There he is. It's the first time you see Don Cheadle.
You don't have to do
Because
this
if
alone.
people know, this is film that they switched from Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle. He gets to play War Machine.
I hope you're ready.
Another rock anthem on top of the action sequence.
Mr. Stark displays textbook narcissism. Agreed?
First time you get to see Fury full on in the movie. I believe the only time we saw him before was in the post-credit sequence in Iron Man 1. Oh, they show the suit. Yeah, this suit is one of the best suit-ups that Tony has in the MCU. It's great. It's great. That trailer is so much more fun than I think the movie is, which is a testament to like you want to get butts in the seat, just cut yourself a good trailer. Again, I have a love-hate. Like I don't think it's a great film, but I don't mind watching it. It's not as much of a chore as some other films that are in the MCU. Next up is Thor. Now I have a very big affinity for Thor. Outside of my 9-to-5 job and outside of doing this and podcasting, I am also an actor. And when I came out here, I was doing background work a lot, and I spent 21 days of shooting on the first Thor. In the shield sequences where in a little, we call it the hamster cage, where Thor is trying to get his hammer and fighting all the shield guards. I am one of the many shield guards that are going throughout there and marching and all this stuff, and got to meet and be directed by Kenneth Branagh, which is like an actor's dream, but also got to see Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth before they were really known people. And it was funny because we were all on set talking about, we knew that Chris Hemsworth had been cast as Thor, but we hadn't seen him yet. We hadn't had any shots yet. And but we only knew him as the dad in Star Trek. He was a very skinny, slim, like he was memorable, but he was a very skinny, slender dude. He was like, well, I don't know if he can be Thor. And then he walked on set in that blue skin tight T-shirt for those shield sequences, and be like, oh no, that's definitely Thor. So I will always remember that. And we had to sit on it because I'm a huge comic book fan, but they did not have Jeremy Renner cast, but they did shoot the sequence of Hawkeye, of a guy climbing up and training his arrow on Thor, but there was no actor. They just knew that that's where they were going. So it was kind of, you'd start seeing at that point, those are the steps that Marvel's ahead of and kind of start blueprinting here. This goes here, this goes here, this goes here. I will say that I loved the relationship of brothers in this movie. I don't know. Thor's the one series out of the entire MCU that I have a hard time going back to those films because I don't hold them the same way that I do a lot of the other movies. But that said, I do enjoy watching Thor, and I kind of like, oh, there's my foot, or there's my knee, or there's this and that. So that's my love with Thor. So let's go ahead and get this trailer started up. And we'll go now. The shot that they're showing is the stuff that I worked on for that whole day. All of this. I got to do the whole thing with Coulson. This is fun.
You made my man look like a bunch of minimum
Long
wage
nights.
mall cops.
I'm one of those guys that's got the guns trained out.
That's hurtful. Would you like to tell me where you received your training? Afghanistan? Chechnya? Who are you?
Paramount still front and center on these. It's a gorgeous looking movie. So I didn't see any of the Asgard stuff. So all of this stuff was done on set away from us. And so when people always say, or actors always say like, oh, I don't know how the movie's gonna look, or I don't know what it's gonna look like. It's because they shoot their part and don't do the other. And so all of this was good to see, and it was amazing to actually.
You are a vain, greedy, cruel boy.
Get Anthony Hopkins in Idris Elba. you're doing some great things as a cast. This is when Marvel started. It's like, oh, we can Rene Russo, we can cast some actually talented actors to play these what would be ridiculous looking roles. Natalie Portman.
Please open your eyes.
Yes, don't care for long.
This is
crop circle.
Where he comes from?
Your ancestors called it magic.
The smart shot for the ladies, like, yo, I don't want to see Thor. Oh, his shirt's off? Then I'm in. The Loki is amazing. I will say, because they're showing a little bit of it now, the stuff that was on Earth, on the street with the cafe and whatnot, that's when the movie started kind of telling on itself. It looked like it was on a lot, and it looked very poorly done. And I think for everything else that's in the movie that's so big, a lot of people had a hard time with the Earth stuff. It's the first time they've really pushed that in 3D stuff too, and 2D in select theaters. This was the hardest film that they had up to that point. It sounds funny saying this now because we've got a talking tree and a talking raccoon and everybody's like, oh, that's fine. But this was the movie that at the time was the one they're like, I don't know how you can put a god in with these rest of these people and this is going to work out. Like, this is going to be kind of hard to do. And I think that's why it had to be as grounded as it was, and that's why you get someone like Kenneth Branagh, who does sort of the Shakespearean stuff. He can do that type of love language with brothers and father and brother relationship and father and son relationships that you need to make this work on screen. And I think they do. This is a good jumping off point for Thor. It's not the greatest, but it's a good jumping off point for Thor. And while I wasn't still quite enamored, I don't think the world was, we started kind of getting pieces like, okay, this is here, this is here, this is here. And it got to the point where people were like, okay, I may not rush out to see it, but I'll see it because I know we're at this point, we've been told that down the pike is an Avengers movie. And you're like, well, if you're putting all of these together, then I guess keep up. And it started getting the movie going public indoctrined to, I gotta watch them all, I gotta watch them all, I gotta watch them all. So it was interesting. But like I said, Thor means a lot to me. While it's not my favorite film, I'll always have fond memories of it. So then next up, we had Captain America, the First Avenger, which I loathe that title. It could have just been called Captain America. But I know there were other films from like the 60s that I watched that were terrible on VHS. Don't ever go look those up because they're really, really bad. But I remember them adding the First Avenger and I'm like, okay, now they're just branding. And this is when Marvel was like, all right, we are going to start branding. It's funny how much I like this movie. It's probably outside of Iron Man 1 and Avengers, my favorite of the Phase 1, because I'm a huge, for those who know, I'm a huge Rocketeer fan. Joe Johnson did Rocketeer and this, and it's got that old school aesthetic, and it's kind of like the swashbuckling, almost Zorro-esque era of filmmaking, and I think they nail it really well. And it also is one of the films that I think took a character that I don't genuinely like in comics. Captain America is not one of my favorite comic book characters, but it makes him relatable to the point that I now care a lot, and the Russos make that even stronger to the point that if Endgame anything happens to Cap, I may leave the theater crying like a baby. So let's go ahead and start up Cap and see what we got. And starting now. The recruitment stuff. This cut part, obviously, you see the Endgame trailer is in there.
Just give me a chance.
Sorry, son.
I'm saving your life.
General Patton has said that wars are fought with weapons, but they are won by men.
You just don't know when to give up, do ya?
I could do this all day.
Our goal is to create the greatest army in history.
I should be going with you. Look, I know you don't think I can do this.
This isn't a back alley, Steve. It's war.
But every army begins with one man.
5 tries.
You get a lot of who Cap is as a person in this movie.
He will be
Man
the
who's
first.
failed
in a new breed
multiple times.
of super
over.
soldiers.
Why
But I think if you've seen the movie, one of my favorite scenes of this character in this entire movie is when he jumps on the grenade to save everyone else, even though it's going to kill him. That's who Steve Rogers is. So that's the dichotomy between him. Tony would do the same thing, but he would do it in a bravado way. And it's two different sides of the same coin.
Now must stop.
Nay, who personally escort Adolf Hitler to the gates of hell.
The last film that Paramount got. I love the shot of her touching Cap's chest. She's like,
Won't be simple.
Wow.
Who the hell are you? The first of many.
Got the big Tracy tail, you know. If you give me a movie like that, I'm gonna sign for it. So.
Is not what you expect.
Red. Howling Commandos. Yeah, people with flamethrowers. I don't care what this movie. I'm seeing it. There's a man riding a motorcycle with a shield. I'm in. This was definitely branding the term the Avengers. So there's like the first Avenger, and they start branding Marvel Studios atop of everything. Because while this I think is the final Paramount, this is the first, I believe, their own kind of full-on studio. A little bit with Thor, but Paramount was still kind of the brain. This is the first one, and then Paramount. And I believe after this, they started putting their brand higher, and this Avengers is the final time that Paramount actually has anything to kind of do with a film. I'll have to look. I'm not 100% sure, because I know Disney soon after starts taking over. So then the final one is Avengers for Phase 1. And it's funny. I have a great story for this movie. I got tickets to go see Avengers early with a buddy. Well, I got the tickets, and I invited a buddy of mine who worked with me to go see it. It was an early screening, about a week or maybe 2 weeks before, actually about 2 weeks before the film was actually to be released in theaters. And it was at AMC Century City here in Los Angeles. And like I said, the MCU was big, but it wasn't that big. It was just kind of like, all right, like a couple of people will show up. So I just thought getting there early would be fine. And it was. It wound up working out. But we got there. I got there. I think the movie started around, let's say, 11. The mall didn't open until 8. But I think for this day, they just opened early and just had a line out there. So I pulled up. I got there. And I was like, oh, well, I'll be one of the first people there. And there was a line of about roughly 200-ish people in front of me. We stood in line. We were like, all right, look, they're probably not going to let us in, but we're not going to leave. We're just going to get here and see what happens. And we go all the way up. We get all the way up, and we're the last two people at the very front of the line. And they're starting. It was like, oh, we're about to start. We're going to close it up. And they're like, how many in your party? I'm like, well, 2. It's like, well, we don't have any seats together. Are you guys willing to split? And before she could even finish the word, like, oh, hell yeah, we'll split. That's fine. I don't need him. We're good. So we both got into the theater. We were like 2 of the last people sat. I sat in the very front section, 2 rows back, and I think he sat in the second section about 3 rows up on the right. So we could see each other. But when you're in a movie theater, you don't really need to sit next to each other unless you're going as a group or you're dating. You're not really caring about the movie, right? So the movie is about to start, and to introduce the movie before it comes is Joss Whedon, Clark Gregg, who I had been around on Thor, Chris Hemsworth, who I had been around on Thor. I believe Hiddleston was there too, and Colby Smulders was there. And they introduced the show, so it just became like a rock concert to kind of be in there. That's my first time with the Avengers. And then it came on. And I remember that moment so vividly. The shot, I mean, obviously the movie was good. It's really good. It's really well done. For you to be able to juggle all these balls and make a movie that feels and looks like that the way you do, kudos. Like this movie is the reason why we've been able to go on, and Iron Man 3, which I like, goes on to make like $1 billion, because this was the groundswell that happened. And then you just sprinkle in Thanos. But I remember being in that theater and seeing the shot that we all know for the Avengers, the theme is coursing, and you see the shot of the turnaround when all of our original 6 are in New York, circled up right before Cap gives the orders to go everybody else and says, you know, Hulk smash. And that place exploded. And it was at this moment that I realized that, oh, this feeling that I'm feeling is what my older brother, who's 15 years older than me, must have felt with Star Wars. Like, this is the thing, this is the momentum. And from that point on, I think that's when they gained the cachet from everybody. It's like, no matter what, even if it's Thor the Dark World or Ant-Man, or you can give me a talking tree or a talking raccoon, this is when they earn the cachet to say, I'm in. And this is when I realized that I was 100% in love with anything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe gave me. All right? So let's go ahead and watch this last one, and let's go ahead and get out of here, all right? This is Marvel's Avengers trailer. I'm going to start it up now.
You were made to be ruled.
I think it's really smart to use Loki as the villain. I know they had original screen scripts that said that they were going to have another character, but Loki already had a cachet with the audience, so you don't have to do too much explaining to put in another villain. In this movie, you want to put your Avengers together, so you don't really have time to spend on explaining a villain too. So I think that was a smart way to play this. So I think this is the last time that Paramount gets any stake or say on anything that Marvel Studios is doing. There was an idea.
Remarkable people. So when we needed them, they could fight the battles that we never could. Gentlemen,
I think the main thing that you have to do in this trailer, which they're doing a great job, is putting all the characters on screen together at the same time, and then showing that they have some type of friction.
Billionaire playboy.
From after. I think they have some type of friction so that you can see that this isn't going to go off as swimmingly as we would expect, especially when you have Tony and Cap involved.
If we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
It's so cool now going back to watch these trailers because you can see all the things that they've taken from bits and pieces of the films to put in the Endgame trailer that I think everyone started shedding tears.
And I'm a huge fan of the way you lose control and turn into an enormous green rage monster.
Thanks.
And this is a way to tell the audiences that yes, this isn't Edward Norton, but we do still have Hulk, and there you are. So that was the Avengers trailer. It's funny, and even still today, seeing this trailer still has the same effect on me that it did back then. It still gets me warm. And some of it's nostalgia, remembering all the stuff that we've talked about today. Again, I question, now like I said before earlier, the comments are going to be closed because I'm just trying to save you all. So if you want to email me, you can email me at hollywoodareadydidit@gmail.com, or you can wait until the comments are open in about a week after Thursday. But when did you fall in love? What was the moment that you were in 100% with the MCU? And you're like, well, let's go ahead and keep on this road to Endgame, right? All right, I'm gonna get out of here. We'll be doing phase 2 in a couple of days, and I'll see you guys then, all right? I got my ticket. You got yours?